Deep in the heart of an ancient forest, where moonlight barely touched the ground, lived a shadow fairy named Luna. Unlike other fairies who shimmered with light and color, Luna was bound to the darkness, a being of mist and shadow. No human had ever seen her. No creature had ever truly acknowledged her existence. She drifted between trees, watching the world but never being part of it. Loneliness had become her constant companion, until one night, she heard a melody unlike any other. The hauntingly beautiful notes of a violin drifted through the forest, pulling at her very soul. Following the sound, she found herself before a young man sitting on a fallen log, his fingers dancing effortlessly over the strings. His name was Ezra, a blind musician who traveled from village to village, playing for those who would listen. Though he had never seen the stars, he played as if he could paint them with his music. His dark, wavy hair fell over his pale face, and his sightless eyes held a serenity Luna had never seen before. She hovered near him, mesmerized. Something about his music called to her, made her feel seen, even if it was impossible. Then, as if sensing her presence, Ezra stopped playing and turned his head toward her. "Who's there?" he asked softly. Luna gasped. No human had ever noticed her before. "You can hear me," she whispered, unsure if she was imagining this moment. Ezra smiled faintly. "I can feel you." He lifted a hand and reached forward. Against all reason, Luna moved closer, letting his fingers graze her cheek. A shiver ran through her as warmth spread where he touched her. "I see you," he said, his voice filled with wonder. Luna's heart pounded. How could this be? He was blind, yet he could see her, the shadow fairy no one had ever acknowledged. For the first time in her life, she felt real. Night after night, Luna visited Ezra as he played his violin beneath the moonlit canopy. She would sit beside him, entranced by his music, while he spoke to her as if she were the most natural thing in the world. He described colors and landscapes he had never seen but could imagine through sound. Luna, in turn, told him about the world of shadows, the way the wind whispered secrets through the trees, the way the darkness pulsed with unseen life. She shared things no human had ever known, and Ezra listened as if her words were precious treasures. One night, he reached for her again, his fingers brushing over her delicate, shadowy form. "Luna," he murmured, "why do you hide?" "It's not my choice," she said, her voice heavy with sadness. "I am made of darkness. The light will never accept me." Ezra tilted his head. "I accept you." Something inside her stirred, something dangerous and beautiful. She wanted to be more for him. She wanted to exist in the light, to be seen by all, not just by the man who had somehow pierced through the veil of her invisibility. And so, she made a reckless decision. Luna knew that shadow fairies were bound to the darkness, but what if she could break free? What if she could step into the light and become something Ezra could show the world? Desperate to be with him, she sought out the elder fairies of the night, the keepers of forgotten magic. They warned her of the cost. A shadow cannot become light without losing itself, they told her. If you step into the sun, you will begin to fade. But Luna did not listen. Love made her reckless, and so she made the sacrifice. The next night, she met Ezra beneath the silver glow of the moon and stepped into the moonlight. For the first time, her form solidified. She was no longer just mist and shadow, she had substance, a shape that Ezra could truly hold. His fingers traced her face, his breath, catching as if she were something sacred. "You feel real," he whispered. Luna smiled, her heart bursting with joy. But deep inside, she felt something else, a slow unraveling, a weakening she couldn't quite explain. In the days that followed, she tried to remain in the light, tried to be part of the world Ezra lived in. But the longer she stayed, the more she felt herself slipping away. Her body became lighter, her essence thinning. Every step she took in the sunlight made her edges blur, her existence flickering like a dying candle. Ezra noticed. "Luna," he said one evening, holding her trembling hands, "something is wrong." She looked into his blind eyes, filled with concern and love. "I just wanted to be with you," she whispered. "I wanted to be seen." Ezra cupped her face gently. "I saw you long before you ever stepped into the light." The realization hit her like a storm. She had never needed to change for him. He had loved her as she was, a shadow against the night, unseen by the world but cherished by him. But it was too late. Her body was fading faster now, the last threads of her existence slipping from her grasp. She sank to the ground, struggling to hold on. Ezra, his heart breaking, picked up his violin. He played, pouring every ounce of his love into the melody. The song filled the air, wrapping around her like a warm embrace. It was the same melody that had drawn her to him that first night, the song of longing, of love that defied reason. Through her tears, she whispered, "Ezra, I don't want to go." He leaned in, his lips hovering near hers. "You don't have to. You are part of me now. You always will be." As the final notes of his song faded into the night, Luna felt herself dissolve into the darkness. She was no longer a body, no longer bound by form, but she was still there. A whisper in the wind, a shadow clinging to Ezra's soul. And he, though blind, could still see her. Ezra never stopped playing his violin. Though no one ever saw Luna, those who listened to his music swore they felt something like a presence, a shadow dancing in the moonlight. When he played, he could feel her beside him, a warmth in the cold, a whisper in the silence. She had not left him, she had simply become something else, something eternal. And so, their love remained, a bond stronger than sight, beyond flesh and form. A love that did not need the light to be real.